What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Blown Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Waiver Wire Queen. In today's video, we're going to talk about my top 8 players who are untradeable in a fantasy football dynasty league. That's right, dynasty league, y'all, is becoming the best thing about fantasy football. It's amazing. Y'all, I'll tell you that I am so glad that I stumbled across Dynasty Leagues a few years ago, and now I just can't stop doing it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure your notifications are turned on, and you hit that like button. Let's get right into it. So I have 8 players in the Dynasty League who are untradeable in my opinion. These guys are the difference makers, and I will also throw out a few players who I feel are untradeable, but they weren't in my top 8. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I was trying my best to find several running backs who I considered untradeable, and again, I only have one on this list for Dynasty, and then I have a few others I'll throw out there as well who are pretty much close to being untradeable as well. Jonathan Taylor, it's amazing. I do not have Jonathan Taylor in any of my dynasty leagues. It's a very sad thing. I wish I would have prioritized him. However, I didn't. This kid is amazing, and he's playing for the Colts, who happen to have one of the best offensive lines in football. That is definitely important to being a successful running back. You can have all the talent in the world, but if your offensive line is trash, it's going to be a struggle at times. And Jonathan Taylor came out this past season and had a career year. Can't say enough about the season he just had. It was amazing. When you look at the numbers, you're like, damn, did he really do it? Yes, he did. He's 23 years old, which is important to me for a dynasty league. And he only has 2 years of experience. You got to think, dynasty league is pretty much like you running your own franchise. So although there are some very, very good, some great running backs out there, some of them may be a little bit older than the age group you are trying to build your dynasty league. And hey, you want to make sure that your team is successful long term, okay? It's not just about 1 year. You cannot go into a dynasty league building your team the way you may build your redraft team. It's not going to work. Okay, it simply won't work long term. You may win that one season and you're going to be thinking like, oh my goodness, I don't have players to help me long term. Jonathan Taylor is on this list because 1, he is talented, the offensive line of the Colts, and 2, he's 23 and again, only 2 years of experience. So loving it. He was number 1 obviously at the running back position in fantasy this past season. And it's no surprise he was number 1. Had a great season. He played all 17 games. I will tell you, Derrick Henry was having a very good season until he got hurt. So they were both right there. I had Henry slightly above him because Henry was really on pace for something great. But then the injury, and then Jonathan Taylor just continued to take off. He continued to skyrocket to the top, which is why in most rankings you see him as the number 1 running back projected for the 2022 fantasy season. His rushing stats, 332 attempts. I really like to see that come down a bit. I want Jonathan Taylor to be here in another 3 years. Okay, I want to see that come down a bit. They have to. They're gonna have to cut back. He had 1,811 rushing yards, which is great. He averaged 5.45 yards per carry, which is exceptional. You're not going to see that often in the NFL. And again, he has the talent. Okay, he definitely has the talent to make you miss. He definitely has the talent to knock you over, run you over. And that offensive line is very, very good. He had 18 touchdowns. That is huge because you can have a running back who's going to get you the yardage. Like you have a running back who's going to get you 100 yards in a game, but no touchdowns. It's really not going to do much for your team, although he can help your team, but it's really not going to be the difference maker. This young man is getting over 100 plus yards and multiple touchdowns. That is the difference. And again, he's a high impact player. He's a player who may carry your team most weeks. That's what you look for when you are considering a dynasty player. If you drafted Jonathan Taylor with the first pick to build around for your dynasty team, you made a very, very good decision because he is a player that you can do that with. Simply, it is what it is. Again, 18 touchdowns. I can't say enough about that. That is tremendous. That, and say he had over 150 yards in the game and you have 2, 3 touchdowns. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's just amazing. Okay. It really simply is awesome. Receiving stats: 51 targets, 40 recs, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. I would love to see a little more touchdowns in the receiving game. And I would also like to see more targets. They have Hines for that. But again, the type of season that Taylor was having, Taylor was going to be on the field all day, every day. And you see that with over 332 attempts. Again, I would like to see that come down a bit. I simply do. Again, it was a career year for Jonathan Taylor. He even played great considering Carson Wentz at times wasn't great. They relied heavily on Jonathan Taylor because of this. Although they have Matt Ryan, and I feel like although they have Matt Ryan, I feel like Matt Ryan is slightly above Carson Wentz at this stage in his career. But it's still going to be the Jonathan Taylor show. So you can look for Jonathan Taylor being that guy. Again, most people have him ranked as the number 1 running back in fantasy. When I ranked in my early rankings, I had him at number 2 or number 3. But if you, again, drafted him first, you're on your way. If you are in a dynasty league and you are on the board in the first round and you have a chance to draft Jonathan Taylor, you do so and you don't have any regrets, because guess what? He's going to produce for your team and he's going to help your team win games most week. If you had Jonathan Taylor in 2021 in fantasy football, you most likely won your league or at least made it to the playoffs. So that is what we look for. We look for players to carry our team on weeks where everyone else is lacking. A player like Jonathan Taylor carried some teams that may have been lacking at other positions. Let's talk about Kyle Pitts. Hey, that's right. Kyle Pitts, especially in a 2 tight end league, is amazing. He is a player I would not trade. I have him right now I have him in 2 dynasty leagues, mainly in a 2 tight end league that I'm in a rebuild, and he's a part of that rebuild. You're going to have to give up a whole lot to get Pitts, whether that is in a 2 tight end league or a 1 tight end league. You're going to have to give up a whole lot because he is on his way to being the number 1 ranked tight end in fantasy. And at some point, he's going to be the number 1 tight end in the NFL. Again, the Falcons don't have a lot going on with that offense this year, so it's going to be a lot of Pitts. I would love for them to add some other weapons and a quarterback, although we'll see what Mariota can do. You need to add some more weapons, so it'll take some of the heat off of Pitts. They're going to have to do something about that. Nonetheless, one of the main reasons you drafted Kyle Pitts in Dynasty is because of his talent. Another reason, he is simply very young. He's only 21 and he only has 1 year of experience. So you have a long journey with Kyle Pitts, and you can expect it to get even better, especially as the Falcons start rebuilding that team and adding other weapons. You can expect to have Kyle Pitts for your Dynasty team for years, to be successful, to help your team win games. I tell you, again, in a serious rebuild, and there were weeks where I shouldn't have been competitive. However, Kyle Pitts helped me some of those weeks stay kind of close to my opponent. Kyle Pitts, can't say enough about him. If you have him, if you made the decision in your draft to draft him as the first tight end off the board, I'm not mad at you, especially in a dynasty league, because you're looking long term. Look at some of the top tight ends right now. You got Andrews, who's still very young at 26. Kels is very, very good, obviously, but he's getting up there. I'll say in a startup dynasty league, you may decide to go with Pitts over Kels because you're looking at the age factor. You got to factor in a lot of things when you are building your dynasty team. You don't want to just draft players here to, no, because you want to make it make sense, and you may want to get a quarterback that's gonna grow with your wide receiver. You want to keep them in the same age group, is what I will say. And Kyle Pitts, again, amazing. He played all 17 games this past season. One of the top 10 ranked tight ends. Career year, obviously, and I do expect his stats to be even better this year because last year there was some inconsistencies at quarterback, and then again they didn't really have a lot of weapons on the Falcons. They simply did not. Nonetheless, it's going to be even better this season for Pitts. So again, if you are in a startup dynasty league and you decide to draft Pitts as the first tight end off the board, I'm not mad at you, okay? Because you are building for the long term. You want longevity in your dynasty league, and you want it with players who are high impact change, who are high impact players who are going to be difference makers, and he is a difference maker at the tight end spot. 2021, 1,026 receiving yards, which most people didn't expect a rookie tight end to do. You know, rookie tight ends have growing pains, as you can see with some of the other tight ends. However, Kyle Pitts was drafted in the top 5 of the NFL draft for a reason. His talent, simply amazing. 1 touchdown, that has to improve drastically. I'm sorry. They're going to have to figure a way to get him the ball in the red zone. Get him the ball. I need to see more touchdowns, and I honestly feel like that 1,000 yards is going to go up. It is. So when you add an increase in his receiving yards, and then you add an increase in touchdowns, you got something amazing out here in these fantasy football streets from Kyle Pitts, and you can expect that. So if you have the chance and you're on the board and you're looking for a tight end and he is available, you snatch him up in your dynasty league. And I don't even care if it's a dynasty league. Any damn format, you draft Kyle Pitts and you will see the results. But for this show today, it's about dynasty league, and I would snatch him up immediately. Just saying. Let's talk about Mark Andrews. Again, in a 2 tight end league, go on and snatch him up. 1 tight end league, snatch him up. Any format, he is going to produce. He's still very young, and he has produced for the Ravens. He's only 26, 4 years of experience. He is Lamar Jackson's favorite target. We have to make sure we mention that, because he simply is, okay? He's his best target, in my opinion, and that's just what it is. He was number 1 in fantasy football this past season at the tight end position, and he had a career year. It was just simply amazing. Played all 17 games, 1,361 receiving yards. That is great. That is very good at the tight end spot. You had some wide receivers doing that. He's amazing. And then you throw in 9 touchdowns. Simply impressive. He's a player, again, who's going to be a difference maker at the tight end spot. If you had him, and say you did decide to pair him with Lamar Jackson in fantasy, especially in a dynasty league, I'm not mad at you. I'm definitely not mad at you if you pick Mark Andrews as your first tight end off the board in a dynasty league, because you know he's going to be successful. When I have to decide on if it's going to be Pitts or if it's going to be Andrews in a dynasty league, I'm gonna give it to Pitts. And it's not all about the talent, it's all about, I'm looking at the age too, because again, when you are in a dynasty league, you have to factor in the age as well, because long term, it's not about 1 year, it's about several years in building your team. You cannot go wrong with Pitts or Andrews. Like, Andrews was the number 1 tight end in fantasy this past season. He's obviously in my top 5. He's in my top 3. He is going to have another great season with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Okay, and again, I'll throw in one more time. He is Jackson's favorite target, so you have to keep that in mind. Let's talk about some wide receivers. Okay, I only have two on my list for Dynasty League. There's some other wide receivers I really love, but these two wide receivers are difference makers. And again, we're talking Dynasty, so don't take it personal if you don't see some of your favorites or some of my favorites on this, because Cooper Kupp is by far my favorite. However, I factor in age and some other things, again, with a Dynasty League. Jamar Chase. Yes, Cincinnati, they made the right decision, although, when they were up to draft, most people expected them to draft Chase. However, that offensive line was a hot mess, and we did get to see just how messed up the offensive line was. Burrow was the most sacked quarterback. It is what it is, but they have corrected that so far through free agency this offseason. But nonetheless, Jamar Chase is the man. Rookie of the year. I need to introduce him again. Jamar Chase, rookie of the year, untradeable wide receiver in a Dynasty fantasy football league. He's just untradeable even in redraft. All formats. You do not trade him. But again, Dynasty League, he is a wide receiver I want on my side. Again, I'm in rebuild in one of my Dynasty Leagues, and I happen to draft Pitts and Chase to help me start my rebuild. And I'm still in my rebuild, but I feel like with those two players, I'm on the right track. And again, with Chase, he's 22 years old, only been in the league for 1 year. He has a long career ahead of him. He is super talented. And you also got to realize, before the season started, everyone was talking about him like he was going to be a bust. He can't catch. He's having catch issues. It's like he forgot how to catch the football. Well, he proved everyone wrong. He made some of those defensive backs look crazy out there, and he was simply amazing. And I expect him to continue to be amazing. He is a player in Dynasty at the wide receiver position. Is going to be a difference maker, and he may carry you some weeks. So again, we look for players who have the ability to carry us all season long, but specifically in those weeks when everyone else is stinking it up. You may have your other two wide receivers, depending on the format and the way your commissioner structures the league. They may not be performing, but Pitts may do enough. But Chase may do enough to where you don't have to worry about the other two guys. Although we want the other two to perform well. But again, Chase is a true difference maker and will carry you. He is, again, the best, one of the best. Again, he is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL already. Yes. Some people have him ranked number one going into the 2022 fantasy football season. It's early, so these are everyone's early rankings, and he's most likely going to stay ranked number one going into the season as we get closer to the season, because we just expect him to continue to improve. So if you have the opportunity to draft Chase, draft him. If you are planning on drafting Chase and you think he's going to be available in the second round, no, because somebody is going to snatch him up in the first round. It's going to happen. Let's talk about his stats. 81 recs, 1,455 receiving yards, which is impressive for a rookie, okay? And 13 touchdowns. I do expect his stats to be slightly down a bit, but if they don't go down and they go up, I would not be surprised, because obviously Chase and Burrow, they have a great rapport, and we do expect more magic and more of those nice long touchdowns during the 2022 season. So again, Chase, he is definitely a wide receiver I'm looking at closely. And also, I look at the quarterback right now, and I know some people are going to look at me like I'm crazy. If I'm on the board and I got Chase and I got Tyreek Hill, I'm going to go with Chase in my Dynasty League, or even in my redraft league at this point. And I'm going with Chase because of several factors. And one of that is I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Tua at the quarterback position. So again, when you are building your dynasty team, you have to factor in several things. It can't just be, oh, I just want to get this guy because he's ranked the highest or right here. You want to make your team make sense. You don't want to just be drafting players and then when you look at the team, you're like, oh my god, I got this. I got no running backs. All my running backs are old, and I don't really see them as part of my dynasty league team going forward. I don't see them as the running backs of the future for my team. So you gotta really do your homework when you're drafting, and drafting Chase is a damn good start. Okay, at the wide receiver position, you're on your way. Like I feel like I'm on my way to being a more competitive team in this dynasty league that I'm rebuilding in, and having Chase and Pitts. It's very very good. I do have two picks in the top three, so I have a lot to consider because I still need a quarterback and I need a running back. So I'm gonna be asking y'all for some help here. I am, but nonetheless, Chase is a difference maker. I'll tell you, some weeks I had the combination of Chase and Pitts, and they really helped me be competitive. Not saying I was out here winning because, again, I'm in rebuild. However, they kept me looking like, oh, okay, I have something to look forward to, and I'm doing the right things by building this team this way. So, again, Chase. Justin Jefferson, my other wide receiver with the Vikings, who is untradeable. His impact on the game. Again, impact is important. Again, he is a difference maker. 22 years old, 2 years of experience. Just amazing. And he's doing it with an inconsistent Kirk Cousins. Second cousins, third cousins. Not my cousin, okay? He's doing it and he's amazing. And you know what? Have him in my league, y'all. And you know what? Have him in one of my dynasty leagues, and I'm very happy. Again, another impressive season. 108 receptions, 1,616 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns. All of that with an inconsistent quarterback. And this young man is just amazing. He's a difference maker. He will carry your team. He will have your opponent stressed out when they realize, oh, I'm playing so-and-so this weekend. He has Justin Jefferson. That's why these players are on this list, because when your opponent is planning for you, they're looking like, ooh, it's going to be tough. Can I sneak by? Can this be the game that Justin Jefferson doesn't have a great game because of Kirk Cousins? Can this be the game? These guys will put the fear in your opponent's heart. Okay, let's be real. We all look at the schedule and we look at the teams we're playing and we're like, ooh, I gotta see Josh Allen. Ooh, can I sneak by this week? Let's be real. It happens. But again, difference makers will have your opponent stressed and trying to figure out a way to get by, praying like, oh my God, can this be the week? Maybe he's going to rest. Or if you have him, you're like, okay, I feel very confident. Although this is a good team I'm playing against, I got Jamar Chase and Pitts. This is going to be a very close one. And I have the chance to win because of the players that I have. And Chase, a Pitts, a Justin Jefferson. Let's talk about some quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, one of my favorites. Woo-wee! Quarterback with the Chargers, 24 years old, 2 years of experience. Super talented, a difference maker, a player that when you add him to your team, you're like, I have the confidence in this dynasty team that I've built, and I know that it's going to start with Justin Herbert at the quarterback position, and I know that I have him for several years, and I know that he is going to be one of my building blocks, and my team is going to have stability at the quarterback position. Simply. That's it. And he's talented, and he's going to score points. He's going to be the number one quarterback in fantasy at some point. He simply is, because he's coming. Right now, in my rankings, I have Josh Allen. You can go check out the video with Josh Allen as the number one ranked quarterback currently in fantasy for 2 years. Check that video out, y'all. on my quarterback rankings, and just know that Justin Herbert is coming. He played all 17 games last year, ranked second in quarterbacks in fantasy. Let's talk about his stats. 5,014 passing yards, 38 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. I expect those interceptions to go down. They need to go down slightly a bit. And I want to see the touchdowns get over 40. It's going to happen this season. He's going to have over 40 touchdowns. 302 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Not bad, throwing a little extra in there, throwing a little bonus. And again, when you are in a dynasty league, you want to have a solid quarterback you can rely on. If you are in a super flex dynasty league or 2 quarterback dynasty league, you definitely want to sleep at night, and you will sleep at night knowing that you have a Justin Herbert as your quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback in your super flex league, you're probably up stressing, trying to figure out how you can get a Justin Herbert, like I am doing for this upcoming draft, trying to make decisions on, do I get a quarterback this year? Should I wait? What should I do? Because I still need a quarterback I feel like is going to help me. It's going to be bring stability to my team, because you're going to need it, okay? You simply are going to need it. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, if you don't have him on your untradeable list, then I don't know what you're doing. I don't care if Tyreek Hill has left the building. We still know that Mahomes is a very talented quarterback. I will say that we're going to see what he's really made of. And also, I would like to wait to see what the Chiefs do in this draft, because there's some really good wide receivers in this draft. There may be some wide receivers that are better route runners. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is a difference maker. Let's see what the Chiefs do. But nonetheless, Mahomes is on this list because he's simply impressive. He's been impressive. And you got to have him on your list. When most teams were making their selections in their dynasty leagues a year or two ago, Mahomes was always the first quarterback off the board. And he's still one of the top 3 quarterbacks off the board, because you know that there's stability here. And I know that I can rely on him to show up every week and get me the points that I need to help me be competitive and stay ahead of my competition and win games. With Mahomes, 5 years experience, 26. 26 is not bad at quarterback in a dynasty league. He played all 17 games, which was amazing. He was ranked 4th in fantasy, not bad. 4,839 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, which was a career high. Gonna have to cut back on those interceptions. Would like to see him hit 40 and above with his touchdowns, okay? Cut back on those interceptions. Most since his second year, which was 2017. So cut back. He was taking too many chances that I felt were just reckless. So he's going to have to cut back on that. Let's talk about Josh Allen with the Bills. What's up, Bills Mafia? That's right. Josh Allen is obviously on this list. I really regret not being able to get Josh Allen in any of my leagues. I have Mahomes in a league, but damn, I missed out on that one. But nonetheless, if you got Josh Allen, or if you're in a startup dynasty league and you are thinking quarterback with the first pick, if you want a quarterback in the first round and it's a 2-quarterback league, a super flex league, Josh Allen would be my top choice. He's amazing. And he's not only going to help you in the passing game, he's going to also help you in the rushing game. He's dual threat. He's going to do it all for you in fantasy. He's definitely going to carry your team every week. He's 25 years old, 4 years of experience. 25 is a very good age at the quarterback position in a dynasty league. Played all 17 games. He will run over players on defense, okay? He will run you over, okay? Ranked first in fantasy at the quarterback position the last 2 seasons, which we all expected. 4,407 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, which was a career high. I'm going to need to see that go down. Let's see that go down a bit. He's taking more chances, I understand, but I need to see that go down a little bit. However, he's making up for that when he's rushing the ball. He's running that damn ball. 763 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, which was a career low. But nonetheless, he is impressive. He is amazing. If he is the quarterback that you decide to go with in a dynasty league or any format, You are on your way. Okay. He helped me win one of my leagues this past season. That was the first time I ever drafted Allen, and I was trying to pair him up with Diggs, but I was unable to do so. But he still helped my team win. Okay, sorry if you got Allen. Know that you are on your way to building a strong competitive team in any fantasy football league, especially Dynasty League, because you know that, hey, I have this quarterback. He is young, dynamic, and I know that there's going to be stability here. We expect him to take another step, and that's impressive because he's taken several steps to being the top quarterback in fantasy. What other steps can he take? Shocking, but he can still improve. And again, with the interceptions going down and the touchdowns maybe going up slightly bit, that's gonna help. But if you have Allen, you're on your way. And I'm hating him if you got Allen. I want Allen on my side, damn it. Because I'm telling you, when I see Josh Allen up, I'm like, oh my God. Woo! Maybe he won't have one of his games. Maybe he won't be sharp, okay? Maybe he won't be sharp. Maybe get 40 fantasy points. Maybe he won't be sharp. Stressful. And you all know what I mean. Again, he should finish first in fantasy this season, but Justin Herbert is coming, okay? Justin Herbert is very impressive as well. So these are my top 8 untradeable players in a fantasy football dynasty league. Some other players that come to mind: once Deshaun Watson gets everything cleared up and the NFL makes a decision on how they're going to proceed, he's going to be on my untradeable list. Joe Burrow is another one who's getting close to being on my untradeable list. I really like Javonte Williams, but before I crown him as a player in Dynasty that's untradeable, I do want to see what other moves the Denver Broncos make this offseason, as well as see what steps he take. I expect him to take several steps in fantasy and just in his NFL career with the addition of a Russell Wilson. Having a really good quarterback can help you tremendously at the running back position as well. Their O-line out there in Denver is a little shaky for me, so I'm hoping that they add some pieces there. So again, I want to see a little bit more from Denver before I just say, oh, this young man is untradeable at the running back position. He's on his way. Najee Harris is close for me. He's getting there. Another one of those young untradeable running backs. There aren't many on my list. I know some of you are probably like, well, I don't see a Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey. I don't have Christian McCaffrey on my list simply because I do not trust him health-wise. He's still very young, but health is wealth. Availability is very important to me, and he hasn't been available much the last 2+ seasons, and I simply cannot trust that. I don't care what he did 2 years ago. I don't want to hear this, well, 2 years ago he was. I'm here in 2022, and 2021 and 2020, he wasn't available. So I don't care about 2018, 2019. I care about 2022, and I just simply don't trust his production. Again, if you're on the board with the top pick, you got to make the decision. Are you going with McCaffrey or are you going with Jonathan Taylor? It's a no-brainer for me. I would go with Taylor, but there are still people who are so loyal to CMC, and then they end up starting it off by ruining their season because they're loyal to a player who was healthy 2+ years ago and produced. Hey, he may come out and have a great season this year, but again, I rather see it first than to just say, okay, yeah, it's going to happen. Okay. I'm not going to do it. Not on my list. Derrick Henry, I have him in a dynasty league, but I'm getting a little nervous because he is getting up there in age. And again, I talked about different factors when you are building your dynasty team. It's not just about the talent. You got to factor in things like age as well. So that is one of the things I consider. Although my team is a playoff team, so I'm like, okay, well, I have a playoff team. So in the drafts, I can look at a young running back I may want to add to take his place in the future. But I don't want to wait until Henry starts to decline and then try to trade him because I'm not going to get the value for him. So he's not on my list, but he is still one of my top 5 running backs in fantasy. So don't get it twisted. He is still a top 5 running back. I'm not crowning some of these running backs top 5 or the best running back until they show a little bit more. One season doesn't crown you as the king in fantasy. It simply doesn't. Derrick Henry will be in the mix. Although, again, in Dynasty, you do have to factor in age. Davante Adams is another player that most would say should be on that list. But again, Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr are two totally different quarterbacks. Simply, they're not the same. It's different. So I trust, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. And then there's more talent on the Raiders. You have Hunter Renfrow. Yes, Hunter Renfrow is solid. And then you have Darren Waller. So they have more weapons, in my opinion. So that may take a bit of production away from Davante Adams, although I still expect him to be very good. But we get to see what Davante Adams is truly without Aaron Rodgers and vice versa. I still think both of them will be very good. Right now, I feel like Davante Adams will have the better fantasy season until I see what the Packers do in the draft. And again, you can draft two talented wide receivers. However, you don't know if they're going to produce or if they're going to turn into the next Davante Adams. If you got a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase, you're like, yeah, but we don't know if these rookies are going to be what we hope and project them to be. So again, he would be on my list maybe a few years ago, because again, I factor in age as well, especially if you are in a startup dynasty league. Now, if you are deep in it and you're a playoff team, then okay, understand it. I do get it. But in a startup dynasty league, you don't want to look and have a team that is pretty much at the not even at the peak. They're close to coming off that peak, and now you're like, oh my God, I don't have any players for the future. I've watched some managers in my league build their teams with players who are pretty much at that stage in their career where it's like, okay, they may only be playing another year or two. You built your team as if it was a redraft. And then when I look at their bench, they don't have any players on their bench that's going to take over for these guys. And so they're going to be in rebuild, and it's not going to be a good rebuild. Because again, you don't know if you're going to find the next Davante Adams or the next Aaron Rodgers in any of these drafts coming up. Now, with one team in my league, he has all of his quarterbacks are pretty close to that age where it's like, okay, I'm going to need you to add someone a little bit younger who's going to be able to take over. What if Aaron Rodgers was to say after the 2022 season, I'm retiring? So you gotta really consider several factors before you draft your dynasty team. At the tight end position, I really like, obviously you like Kittles and you like Kittle and you like Darren Waller, but again, Kittle, he's always injured for me, so he's one I like to stay away from. But I don't have him on my untradeable list in a dynasty league. I simply don't. Hell, I've watched teams trade Davante Adams and trade Kittle like hair. Boop. These guys are not the top dogs at their position. Hey, people just do dynasty sometimes because they just love the thrill of trading. Okay, and that's simply what it is. At the quarterback position, there's some younger quarterbacks also outside of Burrow that I really like, but I haven't seen enough yet, and so I'm not going to say they are on my untradeable list. All right, y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments and let us know any players you have on your untradeable list in a dynasty league. Also, let us know if we got it right. Make sure you hit the like button and your notifications are turned on.
Thanks for listening to the Blown Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Blown Coverage Fantasy Football Podcast.